My entitled half-sister wanted my house and money. Because she's pregnant. She faced legal problems and was disinherited. I'm using a throwaway account because she knows my personal Reddit. But here we go. This is a long story, so I, 27F, moved to the United States almost 7 years ago. I have 2 half-sisters from my father's side, all from different women. We used to be very close. And even though both were illegitimate, I shared with them part of the small inheritance I received from my grandparents. They never recognized them and left them nothing. 2 years ago, my sisters also moved to the United States. The middle sister, 28F, let's call her Mary, got a company to sponsor her with a work visa. The older one, 30F, Karen isn't her real name, got a student visa and moved in with me since I was already working and earning a good salary. The agreement was that I would pay the bills. She would get a job at the university since she wasn't allowed to work outside, and that money would be for her spending. I would cover all bills and food. The only thing I asked was for help with some minor chores. I have a dog and a cat, and I told her she had no responsibility while she had school and work. It was fine since I work from home and have in-laws who help me maintain my household, mainly because I'm the free babysitter for them. A pretty sweet deal for a student, right? Well, apparently that wasn't enough. While she was in school, Karen met Ken. I knew Ken from when I went to university. He's a weird guy, but I thought he was harmless. Karen was madly in love with him. I warned her that Ken had a bad reputation at university, but she didn't care. She's an adult girl, so I let it be with the only condition that he wasn't allowed in my house. COVID came and my hours were reduced. Karen's school was put on pause and she lost her campus job. Due to all this, we moved to a small apartment. I got a second job and did some freelance work on the side. I barely had a personal life. I'm dating someone, but he was also overwhelmed with work and bills, so we barely saw each other. During this time, Karen and Ken apparently got closer, and he started showing up at the apartment. Karen wasn't part of my lease agreement, but my landlord was very understanding. Ken started making really inappropriate comments about me. I'm not a beauty queen. I just have a somewhat exotic look. As Ken said, I'm mixed race from the Caribbean, so I have a bit of everything, and somehow it all shows. Karen looks more like our father, who was of European descent. Actually, Karen is more attractive. I just look foreign in this small intermountain region town who was trying to touch me and was simply invasive. I managed to stay in my room when he was around or use the excuse that my pets needed a walk. I didn't know exactly why, but Karen kept pushing for me to spend time alone with Ken. It'll be good for you to bond with your future brother-in-law. They had only been dating 7 months at that point. I didn't care. I found excuses to avoid him. In November 2020, I got a better position at my main job, so I could quit my second job and have more time for myself. I reconnected with friends, and one of them asked me if I was okay. I asked why, and he told me that Ken had been saying he was very close to getting me for, let's call it, personal time. I wasn't okay with that idea, and very loudly said I'd rather be hit by a train than do anything with Ken. Since I'm in a small intermountain region town of the type where most people in the same area know each other, many people had text messages or creepy stories to tell me. That was it for me. I went home and demanded an explanation. They didn't deny it. Ken even said that Karen had said it was okay and that they were doing me a favor as her sister since I had a fantasy I wanted to fulfill. I told both of them they were disgusting and that Ken had to leave or I'd call the police. Ken left with some insults directed at me, and Karen started telling me she didn't see the problem since my partner and I were on a break. We weren't. I told her I wasn't there for her to sell me like property and that she had 2 weeks to find her own place. I was done with her. I called all my relatives, sent them copies of the text messages I'd been given, and no one in our family wanted to have anything to do with Karen. She moved in with Ken a few days later. It took effort, but I managed to get a restraining order for Ken. I couldn't get one for Karen. Still, they disappeared from my radar except for some encounters that were easily resolved by showing I was about to call 911, and then today something happened and I had to hold back laughter. Mary had been keeping an eye on Karen since they're sisters, and she sent me a message with a heads up. Hey, Karen just called me. She's pregnant and he kicked her out. I just stared for a few minutes and replied, oh, that's sad. Mary knew and was supportive, but I don't care and have no intentions of helping. Karen used Mary's phone to call me. She begged me to help her since Mary will only let her stay for a week before moving to another state. She said she missed her little sister and had no one else to turn to. She knows I have family health insurance. I pay private health insurance for 2 relatives who are in hard times and have health conditions, and that I could do something like that for her pregnancy medical expenses. She said this baby is a blessing and I should want to help raise it, which means I pay for everything. I let her vent for a good 5-7 minutes, then said no, and ended the call. She tried to call again for a while, then stopped when I received a message from Mary saying she had left her phone on the counter and was sorry for the spam. Most of my family agrees with me, even Karen's mother. The only one who disapproves is Karen's aunt, not my aunt, but I called her aunt anyway since I've known her for many years. She's been pressuring me not to be mean, but where I live, I heard Midwest and Northwest interchangeably. As far as I'm concerned, it was the same. We don't have that type of regions in my country, so I decided to Google while working and discovered that neither is correct. I live in the Intermountain region. Thanks, random stranger, for making me check the messy regional system. Not even Google agrees on it. Also, a small explanation about my grandparents. They were very old traditionalists. At the end of their lives, they didn't have much to give, so they chose to give it to the legitimate grandchildren. My father, sperm donor, had many children. He might not even know all of them. The grandparents were simply tired of every 2 years a new grandchild appearing, and in some cases, an opportunistic mother attached. Lastly, Karen's visa had a COVID extension, but that's over. She's overstaying her visa. This is very common. I have relatives who do it. I don't agree, but I also had a foot inside since my stepfather is American. Update 1. I didn't plan to make an update so soon or at all, but here it is. Mary called me this morning for breakfast to discuss things related to Karen. She told me she understood I didn't want to be part of the problem, but she really wanted it discussed, and then I could leave. I know Mary, and I know she's just trying to leave everything in order before leaving the state. She's the peacemaker of my siblings. I agreed with the condition that there was no way Karen was coming home with me. Mary just said, if she tries to follow you, I'll remove her myself. So I got dressed, went to breakfast with my sisters. I'll skip the pleasantries and the stupid friendly family aspect that Karen tried. Once we finished eating and were just having coffee, Mary put all the cards on the table. She explained that she couldn't take Karen out of state because she's getting married to her lifelong girlfriend, and they can only afford a 1-bedroom apartment in their new city. She also said that Karen was crazy if she thought Mary would allow her to live with me, even if she had the power to make me accept Karen again. That Karen was lucky she even let her stay with her these past few days. She told her the only reason we were doing this was because her mother had begged her to at least put Karen in a safe place or find a solution for the pregnancy. So she turned to me and asked, as the most financially stable, if there was anything I'd be willing to help with. I could be an asshole for this. Feel free to criticize me. But I basically said I would only give money for 3 things. 1. A pregnancy termination and a hotel room while recovering. 2. A ticket back to our country of origin so she can live with her mother or aunt and get free medical care. 3. A ticket to our older brother's country so she can live with him, because I know he'll accept her. I also said she had the option to give the baby up for adoption, but I wouldn't offer a place to stay or a way to get medical care out of my pocket. I gave her some links to nonprofit organizations she could use. Karen started crying, saying I was trying to take away her baby and being a bad sister, that a good sister would open her house and help care for her baby, that I never deserved to have the money I have. Most of my money is from inheritance from my mother's side of the family, so I don't know how she would have gotten something that I was spoiled by my mother, because I had money. We had it because after our father left my mother and me with nothing, she created a company from scratch. She kept babbling and making a scene, then said something that really hurt me. You're angry because you'll never get pregnant. Yes, it turns out I'm infertile. No, I can't receive treatment for it. It is what it is. I've already accepted it, but it still hurts. Mary knew this was a low blow for me and basically told Karen that one more stupid word like that and she'd be sleeping on the street tonight. I didn't cry or anything. I just looked at her. Karen stopped crying, murmuring, and seemed to have an idea. She looked directly at me and asked me to adopt her baby. I laughed at that. I told her she was crazy if she thought I'd adopt her baby. I don't want her in my life, much less her ex. I don't blame the baby, but I have absolutely no intention of being part of the child's life. I was about to lash out at Karen just for even thinking I'd consider that as an option, but Mary stopped me in time. She simply told Karen, you have the options she gave you. Here are mine. You can terminate the pregnancy or you can return to our country of origin. Either way, you can't stay here. You're not legal and your immigration status affects us. If you were to live with us, I could lose my job and OP could lose her resident status. You have until next Friday to choose. If none of these options work, you'll have to find your own solution without us. I don't want you anywhere near my little sister. You put her at risk of being assaulted or something worse. You're lucky I have a spare room for 1 more week for you to stay, but after that I don't want to see you in person. We can stay in touch. On Facebook or by phone, you've lost the right to spend time in person with either of us. I just looked at Mary. She's very quiet and normally the most reserved of us, so this wasn't expected. Mary paid, didn't even wait for change, and left Karen with enough to take a taxi home. Mary grabbed my arm and pulled me out. I didn't know how much I needed someone to protect me for a change, but I cried a little from pure relief at realizing I had an older sister who still looked out for me. We decided to go for ice cream afterwards like we did as kids when bad things happened, and we discussed our plans to spend holidays and vacations together. Mary's girlfriend also joined us for ice cream, and the whole time made jokes about how sad she'll be without her little table. She's much taller than me, and it's an ongoing joke between us. Nothing too dramatic, fortunately. Mary and her girlfriend will come later for dinner with me. Depending on how this mess ends, I'll try to update, but at this point I think it's pretty much done. I'm not sure if Karen will take any of the options we gave her or just do her own thing regardless. I have no intentions of putting my money into anything other than what I said I'd do. And yes, Mary is my heroine. If anyone's curious, small edit. I was asked this in a chat and wanted to clarify. Karen isn't without money. I gave her $1,000 earlier this year when our grandmother passed away. That was her share of the $30,000 they gave me. She's also been saving money from her university job. I worked at the university about 4 years ago and earned $9 an hour. Her mother also sends her money. Unless she's wasted all her funds, she won't go home without money. If that were the case, my siblings Mary and I would give her something. She might be on my blacklist, but she's my sister after all. Update 2. The short version of the events that led to this is that Karen was living rent-free with me when she started dating a weird guy. Her boyfriend wanted to fulfill a fantasy that involved my sister and me in a very disgusting activity together, and Karen was totally okay with it and offered me without my knowledge. I kicked her out. She moved in with him and got pregnant, and he kicked her out. She wanted me to not only take her back, but basically support her and her baby. My sister and I gave her options and told her she wouldn't live with either of us long-term. As I mentioned in my last post, my sister Mary and I gave Karen a couple of options for her unplanned pregnancy. The options were a termination of her pregnancy, a ticket back to our country of origin or to our brother's country, or that she find a way to support her child or give the baby up for adoption. She had until tomorrow to choose since Mary leaves Saturday for the East Coast. Well, Karen didn't choose any of the options. She decided to complicate life so much that she's now arrested and very likely to be deported. Let me explain what happened. Tuesday, Mary decided to go to a nearby national park to enjoy it one last time before moving too far to drive there. She left Karen with a key and some money. Big mistake. Mary and her girlfriend returned yesterday and discovered that all the locks on her house had been changed. To make things worse, Ken, Karen's supposed ex, had moved into her house. I know Mary should have anticipated this, but they grew up as best friends. They used to be closer to each other than to anyone else, including me. Obviously, they called the police, and it was a big mess. Karen and Ken claimed it was their house. Mary and her girlfriend kept saying no, it wasn't. It's not even Mary's house anymore. It was sold, and the new family that bought it arrives Sunday. The real estate agent was going to give them the key. The police officers were so fed up with this mess even before it escalated and asked everyone for their IDs. Ken, Mary, and Mary's girlfriend had their IDs. Karen only had an expired passport. Karen was arrested on immigration charges. Ken was arrested on charges related to breaking and entering and some others I'm not sure about. I learned this secondhand from Mary while she was basically about to commit murder, if not for the officers present. Today, I was called by my sister's lawyer. He said she claims to be my surrogate and that the baby in her was actually my child. Yes, she tried this. I told the lawyer I wasn't looking for a surrogate or adopting a child. I'm already fostering and don't have space, and that my sister got pregnant by accident with Ken. He asked if I'd be willing to foster her baby since he would technically be American. I said absolutely not. He tried to work things out with me, explaining that my sister would very likely be deported otherwise. I just told him if that's the law, then so be it. I asked him to please not contact me anymore about her. As far as I'm concerned, the only family she has is in our country of origin. Apart from the scare and new locks, Mary is fine. The real estate agent has copies of the new keys for the family that owns the house. And now my sister and I plan to have no contact with Karen. I don't know what will happen exactly to Karen, and I don't care anymore. Now even my aunt in the country of origin doesn't want to have anything to do with Karen and even apologized to Mary and me. As for Ken, well, who knows? I hope he goes to jail, but if he doesn't, I don't care. Now I feel like I've taken a great burden off myself and can focus on work and teaching my foster daughter about Star Wars. We've already seen the entire original trilogy and have a Clone Wars marathon planned for the weekend. I want to thank everyone who sent good wishes to my sister Mary and me, and also the people who shared advice that I'm so glad I took seriously. This has probably been the worst roller coaster of family mess I've had to face since my parents' divorce, and it came absolutely from the person I least suspected. I can't say I have more entitled Karen stories besides this one. Karen was once really a very good sister, but I guess when money and comfort are involved, people change. Small update that doesn't deserve a new post. Karen was offered to voluntarily leave the United States and won't face negative consequences for her status. She called my mother to see if she could convince me to give her money for the ticket. My sister Mary and I agreed to pay for the ticket with the condition that she never contact either of us again. Her mother is aware of this and basically told me Karen will have to find a job within a month of her arrival, or she'll be on the street. As for lawyers and such, I have my own immigration lawyer aware of the mess, and he told me the only way the surrogate trick would work would be a DNA match or a contract. Neither of those exists, so I'm safe. Mary booked Karen's return trip for Friday, and goodbye forever. Update 3: I posted about my sister's attitude and received messages asking about my biological father. I didn't plan to talk about him, but today I had drama related to him, and I think I need to vent. My father was the type of man who would find a woman, start a family, and leave within a span of 10 years. My mother was his longest relationship, but it was mainly because she waited to have children. Of 3 wives, I've heard rumors there are more, but the most I can confirm are lovers. In total, I have 9 half-brothers and 2 half-sisters that I know of. This also spans 5 countries: Argentina, Brazil, Haiti, Panama, and Colombia. I won't say which is mine since some relatives have read it. Now, some examples of my dear dad's attitude. He married my mom when she was 21 and he was 37. He didn't let her finish school because it was better if she just focused on the house and children. My mom had to take the pill in secret because she didn't feel ready to have a baby. They had me 7 years later when my mom was 28. My mom had postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, and instead of staying, the biological donor went to live with a mistress he had impregnated a year earlier with my best half-sister. He only returned after I was about 3 years old. I want to point out that my sister's mother had no idea that my mom or I existed. The biological donor stayed then until I was 12 years old, then left my mom for a woman who had just turned 18. She's the mother of my youngest half-brother. After my parents' divorce, my biological donor left my mom with a debt of $8,000. That's the cost of a 6-bedroom house in my country to this day. My mom had to sell the house we lived in, which only covered part, took a job in another country, and my older half-brother became my legal guardian. My mom took 2 years before returning and making her company pay the debt, and I was able to live with her again. By this point, my mom knew 4 of my father's mistresses. My mom's company turned out to be very profitable, and suddenly Dad decided to claim spousal support. He had only paid $50 in child support in 4 years. I was 16 then. He also called my sisters and me to demand that we drop out of school so we could work and send him money for his youngest son. Oh, and I can still quote him to this day. You go to a fancy school, get pregnant with a rich boy's baby, and he'll support us all. When I was 18, I didn't immediately go to university. My mom needed help in the company, so I decided to postpone it for a year. I started working for her and took another job at a museum as a translator. I didn't make much money, about X per hour. My biological donor sent me a bill for a total of $230,000 in living expenses. My mom remarried when I was 20. My stepfather is incredible and is the father I never had. My stepfather is American and suggested we all move from the apartment. My stepfather said he would sue, and although he had no grounds, my stepfather gave him $2,000 to shut him up. Then he told my mom he wanted my college fund for his youngest son because I was a woman and it made no sense for me to go to university. My mom told him no. I lost contact with him. He tried to reconnect multiple times, but I never gave him a chance. He died in 2020, presumed suicide. I don't know the details, and to be honest, I never cared. This morning I received an email from a man in my country demanding that I pay him a debt that my biological father had with him. He told me that my biological father had said I would pay all his debts if he died, that he had my signature on a 2018 contract. I laughed and told him I had been in the United States for 7 years and hadn't been in my country since I left. I asked him for the name on the contract. It was a very close approximation to my name, but not correct. Even the ID number they gave him, our equivalent of Social Security, was wrong by a few digits. I didn't give him my ID. I just told him he had the wrong information. He was furious and asked me how he was going to recover his money. I told him to try with a Ouija board. Just to be safe, I called my uncle to have a lawyer ready in case of emergency. This is good. Just a handful of examples of my late biological father. May he rest knowing that all his children, ex-wives, and ex-mistresses didn't even bother to go to his funeral. Update 4, I almost managed to go a month without hearing from my half-sister. But well, Reddit was right. This might never end. Also, curiously, my dear sister found my post and sent me a scathing email before I blocked her. But that's not really a big story. This one, however, infuriates me. As I mentioned before, my older half-sister Karen was deported by immigration, after going crazy trying to get squatters' rights in a sold house that used to belong to my other half-sister Mary, and was escorted out. So I know she left. Things were quiet for a while, and meanwhile I focused on my 4-year-old foster daughter. Let's call her Lily. Lily's mother is one of my oldest friends. She gave birth in the United States, but Lily's father isn't American, and unfortunately passed away when Lily was a baby. My friend had to leave the United States to do her immigration process outside the country since she has no one to claim her except a minor daughter. This unfortunately means she probably won't be able to re-enter the United States until Lily is 18. Since the education system in our country of origin is very bad, she asked me if I could care for Lily. By then, I had already kicked out Karen, so I had an extra room. I told her it was okay if it was in Lily's best interest. Lily and I are inseparable, and she's always seen me as her fun and crazy aunt. It took a while, but 3 weeks ago, Lily's guardianship passed from the state to me, and just in time for Halloween too. This year, we're not going trick-or-treating due to the pandemic, but Lily still wanted to dress up as a Jedi. I'm so proud of this girl, I swear. My mom was incredibly happy to have a foster granddaughter, especially since Lily really doesn't have other grandparents, so she sent some pretty elegant Star Wars accessories. Obviously, we dressed her in her Jedi outfit and had a mini photo session for Grandma, and my mom posted the photos on Facebook so Lily's mom could easily see them. My family and friends went crazy over how adorable Lily looks. She says she's not adorable, she's a Jedi. And then Karen struck back. My mom forgot or decided not to block Karen, and when my half-sister saw Lily's photo, she had some of her finest comments like, "She looks fat, she's ugly, and clearly going to grow up to be a word. She looks like a word I can't even say in writing, but it's the word that starts with N." That's just a sample. People responded and kindly told her to return to the darkness, but then she started calling my mother at all hours to ask for money, to ask how to contact me, to tell her I was wasting money on a girl who wasn't really her granddaughter, and that I should give her the money for her son. Karen isn't my mom's daughter. Well, eventually my mom figured out how to block her, and Karen contacted me through a school friend. She sent not one, not two, but a 16-page list of demands or she'll sue me. One of the demands was to get rid of my foster daughter so I could raise her baby. Another was an apartment I share with my cousins that our maternal grandmother left us, $200,000, my dog and my cat. Oh, and I need to bring her back to the United States. There's still more, most completely delusional. I sent a copy to my lawyer to try to get a no-contact order in the United States. I can't do anything in my country of origin, but I sent another copy to our relatives, including our older brother. He just told me he'll handle it. For the record, I'm not going to take care of Karen's son even if I didn't have Lily. Her ex was recently released and has already caused problems for other people. Fortunately, he stays away from me. And to clarify something, Karen isn't without money. I divided with her and Mary an inheritance of $150,000 in equal parts. She also received money from her stepfather when he passed away. In our country of origin, she's doing fine economically. The only reason I never charged her rent or asked her for money was because I knew tuition was going to be very high and I didn't want her to have to take out a loan like I did for a while. Update 5, at this point, I'm just posting to vent, but damn it, now my girl is having problems and I'm one step away from saying screw it and just quitting my job and leaving the state. So as people who have read my previous posts about my sister and her creepy boyfriend know, Ken, called that since he's a man close to the king, and no, it's not Ben, is a disgusting guy who has tried to have relations with both me and my sister. I absolutely refuse to be in the same room as that slime for more than a minute, but not even with a no-contact order does he seem to understand it. After being arrested and released, I'm not sure how he got away with what he did to my other sister Mary, who had completely disappeared. My foster daughter Lily has become my main focus while I work to get her adjusted. I've even been looking to move from my current apartment to a small house with a yard for her, and Lily is involved in the search, giving her opinions too. She's also going to kindergarten, of course, and doing very well. There are still some adjustments due to all the changes and she misses her biological mother, but we already have plans to visit her during spring break when I can also take time off. Today I asked a kindergarten mom, Tina, if they could bring Lily. She agreed, and I gave her some money as thanks so they could buy food at McDonald's on the way home. She called me in a panic around pickup time. Apparently the teachers noticed a man trying to talk to Lily, but the place's security scared him off. Obviously, the original plan went out the window and I left work early to go to school. Lily told her teacher and me that the man said he was a good friend of mine and had something for me. He asked if she'd like to come home with him to surprise me. Fortunately, Lily was more interested in a Happy Meal and said no. The teacher and I were horrified and immediately checked the school's security cameras. They brought me a photo, although it was low quality. I'm very sure it's Ken based on the photo and Lily's description. The school promised they'd contact the police and give them the security camera video. I also went to file an incident report. Since I wasn't there and Lily didn't get a name, they took it as a stranger event until they investigate. I'm terrified. With Karen out, I thought Ken would leave me alone, but now he's targeting my 4-year-old girl. I'm terrified thinking about all the horrible outcomes if my daughter hadn't been more interested in fast food than what this person was offering. I established a rule with the school that only I, my boyfriend's mother, Tina, and her husband who I trust can pick up Lily from school. Lily is now scared since she picked up on my own panic. We had a good talk about strangers and bad people and why she should never go anywhere with someone she doesn't know. Tomorrow, first thing, I'll buy Lily a cell phone, and she'll stay home at least until Monday. I don't know. Stressed is an understatement, and now I need to figure out if it's better to find a safer place to live in this area with my job and my boyfriend, or if it's better for me to move to Florida with my parents, which I really don't want to do since it would mean a long-distance relationship or breaking up with my partner of 6 years and giving up a very good job. Edit. Something to add is that I can't just pack up and move out of state in a short time. I'm still finishing the process to become Lily's legal guardian. It's from her biological mother, and we've already talked to Lily about what that means. It's very difficult to move with a foster child since you have to get permission from the state, qualify to be a foster parent in your new state, and meanwhile, your foster child could be taken away. I'm not going to put Lily through that. If all goes well, I'll have guardianship by February 2022. Update 6I wanted to thank you all for all the advice and good wishes for me and Lily. I wanted to make sure people knew we're okay so far. I took into account the ideas of using a password. Lily, her teacher, the people I trust with her safety, her social worker, and I are the only ones who know it. I've also set all my social media accounts to private, removed Karen and anyone I suspect has contact with Karen or Ken. This means many relatives, unfortunately, but I'm not going to risk it. Mary has been a blessing in all this since she actually was the one who helped me identify some people I didn't suspect. Unfortunately, it's not really feasible for me to live with Mary or in Mary's city. She lives in a very expensive area, and although I have a good job in savings, the quality of life there wouldn't be good with what I have. Mary has a house, paid for by her job, so she's doing pretty well, and her now wife is also in a very good position. As for getting a gun, although I support the right to responsibly own firearms, I have a history of mental illness. I'm treated and stable, so it's not risky for me to have a girl, and legally I could buy a gun if I wanted to. The problem is I'd prefer not to if the worst comes to pass, and even with all care I have an episode. I don't want to risk having a gun accessible. That said, I plan for my partner to teach Lily about gun safety in a few years. So far we've done the basics. If you see a gun, don't touch it, and always treat it like it has a bullet. Ken. Unfortunately, I have mixed news about him. The bad news is that my case has been officially classified as a domestic matter since he's technically my sister's partner. I know it's silly, but that's what the investigation decided. I spoke with my personal lawyer and Lily's social worker, and we've decided to try to escalate the no-contact order to a full restraining order that includes Lily. Meanwhile, I've decided to start the process to move to another state with Lily. Her social worker will help me get the necessary permits. With them, I'll be allowed to take her to a new residence out of state until we finalize the adoption. My partner and I will move together, and I've been allowed to work completely from home. As I was walking my dog in an area where I thought it was strange to see him since it was a dog park specifically for dogs that do agility, so it's rare to see people without pets. There are some bad rumors about Ken lately in town, worse than his usual messes, so maybe by the time I leave he won't be a problem anymore. I've made sure to tell only my landlord and Lily's school about my departure. The plan is to leave in a type of family visit scenario. We'll stop in Florida so Lily can spend Christmas with my parents and stepbrothers, then drive a few days on a cross-country trip to our new state of residence. My partner will take my dog and cat ahead to start preparing the new place. Lily will be able to choose how we decorate, paint, and design her room since we're renting with option to buy, and the new landlord was more than happy to allow us to alter a room for Lily. There's also a big yard, so we're already thinking about new projects. Update 7. Well, pettiness has no end. As I've posted too many times, I need to write a book. He is my sister's boyfriend, and father of her baby who is currently harassing me, has gotten to the point of trying to harass my foster daughter at her kindergarten. He's been doing classic things like following me at a distance, calling me with random numbers, and even trying to get into my house once when I wasn't there. I decided to stay elsewhere for safety until I finally move completely out of state. However, for the most part, nothing as serious as approaching my daughter has happened. Until this morning's craziness. I decided to buy a new PC for my partner as a Christmas gift. We love video games, but the computer he has is a bit old, so I decided to surprise him and bought a very good desktop computer with an RTX 3080. This thing was expensive, but he's been my support during all the mess with my sister and is even the reason I'll be able to adopt my foster daughter. I set up the PC pickup at Best Buy. Well, I hadn't finished my coffee when I received a call from customer service saying there was a man there claiming to be my husband and yelling at the pickup person because they wouldn't give him my order. Obviously, I told them I wasn't married and that I would pick up the order in person later after work. They asked me to go there to resolve this since they would check IDs to compare. Now, a small detail that Ken didn't know is that I changed my name less than a year ago to remove my biological father's name. I had planned this for years, but waited until my grandparents and paternal aunt died. I knew it would break their hearts if I did it while they were alive. My name now is my stepfather's and my mom's. When I got there, he was yelling at a poor representative, waving an ID saying the names matched. After explaining the situation to store security, they accompanied me to speak with the manager. I used to work at that store long ago, so I had a good relationship with that manager. He actually knew my old name, but since it didn't match in their system, it didn't matter. Ken started yelling at me, calling me every possible insult, even tried to throw a tape dispenser, but the guys at the counter stopped him before he could reach it. I tried not to engage with him. The only thing I told him directly was to let me talk when he wouldn't stop screaming. He kept saying creepy things like I owed him that, and he had a right to my things since I took away his house. I didn't, it wasn't even mine. Eventually, he just left when the store guys called the police. They couldn't hold him in the store even if they wanted to. It's against their policies. I stayed until the police arrived and mentioned all the other situations with this man, all the calls I had made about his harassment, even the no contact order. Still, the officer said that given that he's the father of my sister's baby, this was clearly a domestic matter, and the only thing he recommended was that I change my contact information and the locks on my house. The store wanted to press charges, but since all he did was make a scene, all they did was ban him from entering the building in the future. I got my PC and the security guard escorted me to my vehicle so I didn't have another encounter. To be safe, my partner and I switched cars. Later in the day, when we picked up my daughter, since it seems like the police won't do anything more for now, I just plan to stick with my plan. I'm leaving this weekend to celebrate the holidays with a family my sister doesn't know personally. And once the holidays are over, my daughter's adoption should be close to finalizing, so we'll move quite far away. For people curious about why he had an ID with my old last name, I suspect it's a fake ID. My half-siblings and I all used to have our biological father's name, so he would have figured it out through my sister. Mary, two of my brothers and I are the only ones who decided to change our names because we don't want to have anything to do with our biological father's legacy. Update. 8 Oh boy, I wish this was a weird joke, but no, this happened. I should warn beforehand, this is not a pretty story. While the saga of my family continues, I'm happy to report that I've moved to a safer city away from my half-sister's ex. I won't give details about where, but far enough and with some changes in my personal life that will make it very difficult for that stalker to find me or my daughter. On that note, due to the situation we were in, we were lucky to get priority. My foster daughter's adoption is now official. She's now the legal daughter of my partner and me. That's the good news. The bad news comes from my sister. So I received an email shortly after New Year from a relative in my birth country. He told me my sister was in intensive care since she had induced herself to give birth to get money for having a baby with special needs. I can't make this up. Unfortunately, it went terribly wrong. I don't know all the details, but the methods she used were very aggressive and harmful, so much so that the baby might not survive. At this point, the baby is alive but so delicate that my relatives were informed that the chances of it making it to the end of January are almost nil. Understand that some of the things she did were hitting her own belly and other violent attacks against herself. She, by some grace that only entitled people have, is somewhat okay. Apparently, the sudden birth didn't affect her overall health. Much so far. That said, as soon as she's discharged from the hospital, she'll be arrested and face trial. As justice is in my country of origin, she's destined for prison. Highly religious people don't take this kind of behavior lightly. The baby, if it survives, will be taken by the government. They consider my sister too great a risk to even grant custody to relatives. Not even distant or partial relatives in other countries are considered. That's also not counting the possible lifetime treatments that poor little one is going to need. From what I was told, he has high probabilities of neurological damage. It's more than likely he'll need special care for life. And right now, he's so weak, they have to feed him through a tube since he can't even drink from a bottle. I want to make something clear. And if I sound harsh, it's because I'm very angry. I offered my sister termination not because I believe in that procedure, but because I didn't want a child to be born to suffer. No child deserves what happened to this baby. Needless to say, my ex-sister has lost not only her parental rights, but also any support or affection the family had. In fact, I sent a letter to her mother to give to this woman, basically telling her that as far as I'm concerned, she's not family, and if she ever sends me a message, I'll block her. Even brothers I don't get along with agree with me. I feel ashamed that trash is even partially related to me. I wish I could put all my thoughts here, but the anger I feel is making me absolutely irrational right now. So for now, all I'll focus on is settling into my new home. I wish I had a happy joke to lighten things up, but there isn't one. That woman has ruined so many lives that I can't even imagine where she got it from. Not even our trash father was that bad. Small edit. I wanted to post this before going to bed, but it took me a while to find the right words. I really appreciate the good wishes and hopes for the child's recovery. I have them too. The thing is, I don't see him as my nephew and would prefer not to get emotionally involved. We've already been told that our family, including extended, will have no contact. If he survives, he'll be taken to the equivalent of foster care and placed with a family in a closed adoption. We're not even allowed to see him. All the news we get are hospital updates out of charity. I called to see if there was any update, and apart from my sister finally being discharged from the hospital and directly to a cell, nothing has changed. The little one is still fighting, so hopefully he'll make it and be given to a family that deserves him. Right now, that monster I'm related to faces a sentence of 10 to 20 years. 20 is the maximum in our country of origin, and she'll have to represent herself since no one will pay for a lawyer and we don't have access to free lawyers like in the United States. And I want to point out that the prisons where I come from are not luxury hotels. They're overcrowded, unsanitary, and poorly funded. It was worse when I was a child, but I know they haven't improved much, so I'm more than sure that if she's convicted, she's looking at least a decade in horrible conditions, and I feel absolutely no empathy for her. Edit 2. I just wanted to post that unfortunately the little one didn't make it. He passed away early today. His grandmother was given permission to handle the funeral, and my brothers and I will send money. We're discreetly discussing bringing her to live in the United States with my mom and her husband since she's close to my mom and won't have to be alone being judged for what her daughter did. Don't think I can really update anymore for a while, at least until I know what will happen to that woman who is now absolutely destined for jail. Update 9. Well, here I am with no news about the main headache of my existence, that person I unfortunately related to is still going through a legal process I'm not involved in. This time it's about another entitled family member, although I'm starting to think that's most of them. I have a younger cousin, 23, who is the princess of the family. I don't say that as an insult, she's literally the beauty of my maternal family. Even I fall into the category of those who never told her no while growing up. Horrible politics, I know. This Christmas, she asked me to pay a large amount of money for a Christmas party that didn't involve anyone from my family and where I wouldn't see my adopted daughter as part of the family. I refused, and my cousin stopped contacting me. She didn't even call me for my birthday, which was fine. Well, we get to last weekend. I'm currently settling into a new house. It's nothing fancy, but it has 5 bedrooms. 1 for my dedicated office, 1 for my daughter, and 1 for my boyfriend's office. We both work from home and needed the space. There's a good yard, not very big, and we have an extra room on the ground floor. It's an addition, not part of the original house. We're going to convert it into a visiting room for our parents, and if necessary, expand it to convert it into a more permanent space if my boyfriend's parents or mine need to live with us. I decided to show it to my mom, and of course she got excited. She told her brother, my cousin's father, and he told my cousin. Now, the time zone difference makes me a few hours behind most of my relatives. My cousin called me at 5 a.m. begging me to convert that extra space into a studio for her and her fiancé. I told her no, that space is for parents, but she's invited to plan a visit or arrange a summer stay or something like that. I told her I don't feel comfortable with her fiancé since I haven't met him yet. She got angry and said I'm blessed with so much money. She has much more than me and can afford to live with us. Well, I decided to ask how much she'd pay in rent. How dare I ask for rent? Where are my Christian values? I hung up the phone and told her she won't live with me and she's lucky if I send her a birthday card. Now, thanks to a personal stalker I gained in my old city, I've closed all my social media, as has my boyfriend. My other 19-year-old cousin sent me screenshots of posts his sister made. Apparently, she accused me of promising a life of luxury in the United States, only to back out because I decided to adopt an illegitimate girl and was living with a man in sin. Apart from some crazies from her church, almost all her friends are calling her out for being opportunistic, since she's well known for being more than capable of living without even having to work. My favorite response is from a guy I remember from when I was in high school, who reminds her how she used to brag about having more money than Hollywood stars. She doesn't have that much, and that she could live in Dubai, also a lie. Now, apparently my uncle and aunt think it's my fault that my cousin is being criticized on Facebook. I really don't care. As much as I'd care if I hadn't had to deal with her at this point, I just go to my guest list for the future wedding and cross off names. From what I see, less money to waste during the reception. I'm inclined to invite her younger brother to live with me, since my new city has an incredible university, and I can certainly afford to have him with me for a few years, maybe even pay part of his tuition. Shutter, update 10 well, Reddit. Again, I encountered a specimen from the entitled side of humanity. Luckily, this one isn't one of my relatives. As I mentioned before, we bought a new house. Now, originally we only bought the house, but after talking with the previous owner, he offered to sell us his small farm and the animals there. He's older and can't take care of them. We're still in the process of sorting out all the papers, but my partner has already started taking care of the farm. Our daughter Lily is absolutely in heaven. There are 2 new dogs she adores, and her favorite animal is a large draft horse that's the gentlest we've ever seen. I'll continue working from home, and my partner will retire much earlier than planned to be a stay-at-home dad and take care of the farm. Now that's the context. The really important stuff starts now. Not even an hour ago, we had a wonderful display of the entitled gender of people who basically jumped the farm fence with 7 children in scout uniforms. I'm not sure what troop. My fiancé noticed them and asked what they were doing and that the farm is private property. The woman's response was simply priceless. We saw the ducklings and chickens and want to pet them. It's clearly a petting zoo since they're here. She pointed to Lily and me while we were brushing the horse. We tried to explain that we were the owners, although technically we're still just caretakers for now, and that she was trespassing. From there, the woman started the biggest adult tantrum I've heard. She demanded we let her in for free and give her free pony rides. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. The draft horses are giants, and although they're gentle and could technically be ridden, a fall could cause serious injuries, especially in children around 10 years old. My partner was incredible handling the how situation and simply told her she had to leave or call the police. She kept yelling that she was going to fire him and that she was going to post a terrible review. She even added some rude words for dramatic effect. We were about to call the police when we actually got very lucky. The old owner was bringing us some veterinary papers we needed to sign for the animals and saw all the drama. He kicked her off the property in minutes. Then we continued with our activities. My daughter, however, had the best observation about the whole thing. "Mommy, I think that lady is strong on the silly side." I blame her dad for that joke. Also, if anyone's curious, no, there are no petting zoos in the area where we live. Just a minor update. This happened a while ago and I forgot to add it. I tried to contact the scouts about this woman and they were lovely. They took the details but were honest that without a number and just a general physical description, there wasn't much that could be done. Still, they'd make sure to inform all leaders that my property wasn't open to the public. I told them if they wanted to go to the nearby creek that's on our property, or if they had an emergency nearby, they could always ask for permission first. I won't say no, but the farm and animals are of course out of the question for any type of interaction. I saw this woman again at the supermarket since this is a very small area, and she didn't even look at me, so it wasn't anything too big. Like our update 11, it's been a while since I last posted. I've been busy with many changes, and to be honest, my horrible sister was in the last place on my mind. It's not a big update, but to summarize a long story, my sister was arrested for causing injuries to her unborn baby. She was born prematurely and with serious physical damage. She was fine, unfortunately. The baby didn't survive and died shortly after birth. A few days ago, my uncle called to inform me that my sister somehow managed to get all charges dropped, except one minor one related to a false police report. She accused her mother of stealing her car. My sister doesn't have a car. It's not the best news considering everything, but right now she has no money except a few $100s a mutual friend gave her, and no one in our mixed family wants to help her. She even tried to contact my parents. We share a deceased father, not our mothers, to get my new number. Fortunately, they refused. That's really my only consolation right now since, like almost all my life, she has the power to cause immense damage and still get away with it. However, not all the news is bad. I found out that due to her criminal record in the United States, she won't be able to apply for a visa for 10 years. So she's trapped in Latin America without a home, real money, or job. She's never had a job since we were kids, and she's in her 30s. I wish I had a more satisfying report about this, but unfortunately there's no jail sentence. Edit, also to clarify. Something. My sister wasn't trying to terminate a pregnancy. She was trying to cause developmental damage to give birth to a child with special needs. She would have had access to a monthly check for the rest of the child's life to cover their care and needs, which I doubt she would have used for that. Update 12-it. Seems like a year has passed since all this mess started, and I've received some private messages asking for an update, so I thought I should at least report on how things are going. The good news is that my family, my partner and my daughter, are fine. We're settled in our new house and adapting to the new life. As for dear Karen, my horrible half-sister, and this is a fake name for her, well, I actually saw her. It wasn't on purpose, of course. About a month ago, I went to my country of origin to close some business, close bank accounts, and prepare a property for sale. I took my adopted daughter so she could see her biological family and left her with them during the week we were there. While I was at the hotel, since as much as I love my relatives, I really feel uncomfortable staying at someone else's house, they called me at reception. Apparently, someone who said they were my relative was there. I told them I wasn't expecting visits, but they insisted I come down because apparently the person refused to leave. Thinking it might be an emergency, and I have relatives who don't have cell phones, I decided to go see what was happening. Who was it but dear Karen? She looked fine, nothing out of the ordinary, so I assumed she had probably gotten some kind of job and was managing things. The moment she saw me, she tried to approach to give me a hug, but I stepped back and asked her to leave immediately. She started screaming that I owed her money, that her life was a mess, and that her baby was dead because I had refused to take them in. The hotel staff tried to get her out and even threatened to cancel my reservation, but I reminded them that they called me and that I wanted nothing to do with that person. Karen started saying she was going to camp outside the hotel until I gave her $10,000, a property I had started preparing for sale. I called the police and asked them to please not let her near my room. Eventually, they managed to get her out of the lobby, but she stayed near the entrance even after multiple calls to the police. The best they did was keep her across the street. So after discussing the situation with the manager, they kindly moved me to another hotel in the same chain in a different area. Personally, this worked for me since I love that area and I could really relax during the remaining days. My daughter joined me the last 2 days with her biological mother, and we had a Mother's and Daughter's Day. According to what my relatives told me, Karen is working at a club as a hostess. Not that kind of club, just a normal tourist trap. She's well enough to rent a place, but without luxuries or the lifestyle she was used to when she just had to call me, and I'd buy her whatever she wanted out of guilt for having money. The last I knew is that my half-sister has been saying that the old property I'm selling is hers and has tried to find the documentation at my relative's house. I'm not so foolish as to leave it there, so in case she reads this, I won't say where they are, but they're completely out of her reach. Update 13. Wow, where to begin? To be honest, I haven't been paying much attention to Reddit lately, so I apologize for the many responses I've overlooked. I've actually been postponing this a bit out of respect. As you know, my older sister was the nightmare of my existence for the last few years, and I have to admit that a small part of me always played with the idea that if she simply disappeared, my life would be easier. Well, be careful what you wish for, because sometimes it comes true whether you want it or not. With her death, I don't feel uncomfortable sharing her first name. Karen, as I called her in the stories, was actually named Letitia. Letty was a mess, to put it mildly, but I have many pleasant memories of when we were girls. I'll try to keep things on the right side of pettiness, since even with her death, I still have quite a bit of bitterness. In May 2023, Mary and I decided to check how things were. We wanted to know if she was okay, if there was any mess we needed to clean up, or any of the many things we thought she might be doing. It turns out we discovered she had died in April. It was due to the damage she caused to her body during her pregnancy. I won't share details, so I ask anyone with morbid curiosity not to ask, not even private messages. Obviously, we went directly to our country of origin to check the situation and make sure she had been given a proper burial. She was still at the morgue, so we paid the necessary fees and arranged her funeral. A lot of family refused to come, including Letty's mother, so we didn't do anything big. A simple online service for those who wanted to attend anonymously, and a quick burial. After that, we set out to put her affairs in order. That's when we discovered she had left $5,000 in debts for Mary and me to pay. Unlike the United States where we come from, in our country of origin, debts pass to the closest relatives regardless of the debtor's death. In this case, it would be Letty's mother, but we decided to take care of it. That's not counting the costs of her funeral, fines with the morgue, and other miscellaneous expenses. The culminating point of pettiness came when we were removing her. Things from the place she rented. We found many missing objects, from childhood toys to jewelry, even my graduation dress. She was selling all those items online. Many of these items were in storage, so somehow she had made a copy of the storage key. I don't celebrate her death, and I don't even feel sad, to be honest. I just feel exhausted. I always wanted to be close to my siblings. Unfortunately, I'm realizing that for her, I was just an easy target. I felt guilty for having a lot while my sisters were excluded because they were born out of wedlock. It wasn't their fault, and I'm also realizing it wasn't my fault. In recent years, I really appreciate how some people made me laugh here, and I really enjoyed sharing how demanding my family is. This isn't really the ending I wanted for my sister's story. For everything she was, I'd prefer she was still causing problems. At the same time, there's a bit of peace knowing I can visit my family and community without feeling like a target. I know that hurt and sadness will eventually come. She was my sister after all. So I'm writing this before the pain makes me less bitter.